interrelationship between ethics, morals, values and attitudes. This was what we had examined yesterday, and we add upon this only, just going back to the diagram that we had drawn. Values, morals, ethics, and attitude. This is how we had drawn the diagram, and this is how we had drawn the things, step by step, clear understanding, so that there is no confusion. I reiterate what I had spoken yesterday, and thereafter we will further elaborate. We said that values constitute the basic substance from which everything else emerges. So the linchpin happens to be the values. Everything else emerges from the values only. And regarding values, our position is very clear that they are abstract. Our position is very clear that they are global. Our position is very clear that they are object free. This is what our understanding is of values. And everything emerges from values. And also, please sir, internalize this line. This is very important and a crucial construct in our later understandings, that values will always be the general determinants of behavior, never specific predictors, general determinants of behavior. General determinants of behavior. So they will always be general determinants of behavior. So when we talk of values, we talk only in the terms of general determinants. And then what we said was that these values are put into specific objects. It becomes a case of attitude. So attitude are object tied and are specific predictors of behavior. Specific predictors of behavior. That is what we said. And further what we said is that not every value is about right and wrong. So there are certain values which are about right and wrong. These values about right and wrong, when they are individual, are morals. Values right and wrong, societal, are ethics. And ethics are seen in the form of the norms of the society, and regarding morals, because they are individual in nature, so they are reflected in the form of individual's character, which in turn is made up of two things: the positive strivings, which is ego ideal, and something which is forbidden, is conscience. So conscience is something that directs our don't do's, and ego ideals happen to be something that direct our what should be done do's. This is what our understanding is. Now, taking this understanding further, if we try to find out that what is a common construct that is present in all of them, and that is called as preference. So here is another diagram to support an understanding. Preference is a common element in them.
Sir?
Preference. Yes, sir.
Sir, when you say that character as good an instance, one is concerns and ego ideal. It's not clear. Can you elaborate?
भाई देखो ऐसा है, कैरेक्टर इज चरित्र. भाई आपके चरित्र का निर्माण कैसे होता है? हाउ इज योर कैरेक्टर मेड अप? व्हाट मेक्स अप योर कैरेक्टर? क्वेश्चन इज दिस. आंसर इज देयर आर टू एलिमेंट्स दैट मेक अप योर कैरेक्टर. नंबर वन, द थिंग्स which you have not done because the society says you should not do it. So that means you are a person who is highly restrained, controlled and self-disciplined. Are you getting my point or not? And then there are things which you have done it. For example, society says that when you are a student, indulge in brahmacharya ashram and all activities of brahmacharya ashram, become sadachari and not durachari. That is what our society tells us. Now this is what the presumption we carry. All of us the students present here are sadacharis. Okay, so that is the part of your character. Plus you have done few things which society say, for example service to the parents. That is what you have done. So character is made up of these two things.
But what is ego ideal?
अरे ईगो आइडियल का मतलब क्या होता है यार? देखो ये तो अच्छी अंग्रेजी है और कोई बात नहीं है. इसे कहते हैं अच्छी अंग्रेजी. ईगो का मतलब होता है सेल्फ. आइडियल का मतलब होता है समथिंग विच यू ट्राई टू फॉलो. तो what is something which yourself considers as ideal? आपको मैं बार बार बता रहा हूं, let us be very clear about this, that ego does not mean arrogance. Actually in common English interaction it is like this, that he has lot of ego. He has lot of ego. So ego here means just self. The problem is not with self. The problem is with being self-centric. Problem is never with self. Problem is with being self-centric. Got the point, sir? That is what our understanding is. I hope you have received it. We proceed further. Yes, sir. एटीट्यूड और मॉरल के बीच का डिफरेंस यही है कि ये डायग्राम मिटाता हूं, अगला पेश करता हूं, आपको मजा आ जाएगा. डिफरेंस ही देखना दो. अगर इसमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम है तो पूछ लो, वरना आगे का डिफरेंस मैं आपको दिखा रहा हूं. Infidelity is immoral or unethical. It is both. Why? For the reason being, if society says that commitment is the crucial characteristic of marriage. Now what are two crucial characteristics of marriage? You are a young man waiting to be married. Now tell me, what are two important characteristics of marriage? चलो इसी पे बात कर लो. एक है unity और दूसरा है it should resist being dissolved. It should not end up in divorce. दो फीचर है मैरिज के. समझ गए बात आप? So when will marriage not be dissolved? When there is commitment among the people involved. So therefore society will not encourage infidelity. Let me tell you, there are two things, both starting with I, and both are dangerous words. One is infidelity and second is incest. Society will not encourage these things. You know why? Because it will create competition within the family. So see, basic idea is, if father and son strive for same woman, as Sigmund Freud says, in the form of Oedipus complex, if father and son strive for same woman, it will create tension in the family or not? The basic idea is this. So society understood the animal that we are, we might strive. So therefore they gave it what? They gave it a supernatural color, saying that gods will be angry with this kind of competition. So please don't indulge in any competition, because you can understand, otherwise the kind of biologically driven individuals we are, our chemical imbalance may occur any time, motivating this drive to occur. Okay, sir? So remember this. That is why societies consider certain things as blasphemous, and society has different standards. Breach of trust on the part of a female is considered to be far more blasphemous than the trust on the part of the male. These are called as double standards. Point clear or not? So, sir, this is the way it is. Our understanding of this you have got. We proceed further to his question, what he has asked. We will explain it in this fashion. Where does attitude figure? हाँ हाँ उसी से तो from that only we will start. See, in the new diagram that we present, preference is the underlying construct in all four of them: attitude, values, morals and ethics. First understand like this: when this preference is based on, the basis is liking, it becomes interest. When the preference has basis in liking, it becomes a case of interest. If it has basis in importance, it becomes a case of value. पहले तो ये क्लियर कर ले अपने दिमाग में. Basic idea is preference. Whenever we talk of attitude, values, morals and ethics, the idea is preference. Now that preference, if it has roots in liking. Okay, I prefer A over B because I like A more than B. So it is interest. And I prefer A over B because A is more important than B. It is value. And you can understand, things which are important are relatively more long lasting than things which are based on liking. So therefore, the feature of interest is what? That they are transient in nature. They are transient in nature. Feature of value is what? Relatively permanent in nature. Tomorrow if they figure in interest, at least we must know, relatively permanent in nature. They are transient in nature. Another feature of interest is what? A preference which is very specific, related to one or few things. So another feature apart from transient nature is specificity in case of interest. Whereas in the case of value, apart from relative permanent, it is global and abstract in nature. Global and abstract. But basic underlying construct is preference. Therefore, what we say is, any interest which becomes generalized and dominant becomes a case of value. Any interest which is generalized and dominant will become value. And any value which is specific and narrow, okay, will become interest. Interest which is generalized and dominant is value. If they ask you tomorrow, please tell us what are interests and how interests are related to values, they can ask you this question, it is in offing. So you will say that interests are our preferences for certain things over certain others. And these preferences for certain things over certain others are based on the liking, the basis is liking that we possess. Interests are transient in nature and also very specific. When these interests become broad-based, that is global and generalized, they take a shape of value. Now further see, when we talk of value, so value again will have two divisions based on whether the given value help us distinguish between right and wrong or not. One value is one that distinguishes us, helps us distinguish between right and wrong. Other value, no such distinction. Remember this. value will always have element of judgment in it. But that judgment may not always be in the terms of right and wrong. So when I say value, so element of judgment is present in these values. But one judgment is in the terms of right and wrong. And second judgment is not in the terms of right and wrong, but it is a judgment. For example, more beautiful art, more soothing to the senses art, less soothing to senses. Judgment, but not right and wrong. Are you getting my point or not? So, no such distinction. Means judgment is there, but it is not in the terms of right and wrong. Got my point or not? This artwork is more soothing to my senses, and this artwork is less soothing to my senses. So, judgment is there, but it is not in the terms of right and wrong. So, when it is right and wrong, it can take two shapes. Number one, if it is individual, again in the form of morals, and if it is societal, it is in the form of ethics. Sir, picture clear or not? Now further, moral, because it is a value, is what? Is relatively generalized. So that is why some people prefer to use the term. In our syllabus it is also mentioned. Moral attitude or ethical attitude. By ethical attitude they mean what kind of, you can say, ethics or ethical element is involved in a given object. That is why the term also is used, moral values, role of school in the development of moral values versus role of school in the development of values. फर्क है दोनों में. When I say role of school in development of values, it means values in general, not necessarily moral. So if school teaches you the nuances to appreciate art, so again it is a value development, but it is not the development of moral values. Are you getting my point or not? Remember this. So have a clear understanding, sir. And can you now tell me, ये picture clear हुई जी नहीं आपको? Please have clarity regarding this position, sir. We have stated everything so that there is no question here of any confusion. Now, in case this is there, it's not necessary that judgment is there, but not necessary every judgment will be in the form of good and bad, or every judgment should be in the form of right and wrong. May not be in the terms of right and wrong.
Sir, earlier you said that value is the linchpin out of all of these.
तो देख लो अभी भी वो है, अभी भी तो वही है.
But behind value there is a preference.
नहीं वो तो इनसाइड वैल्यू बोलो ना, बिहाइंड वैल्यू क्या है? अब डायग्राम में अंदर थोड़ा डाल सकता था मैं उसके. भाई प्रेफरेंस क्या है भाई? व्हाई डू वी से वी शुड हैव वैल्यूज? मुझे बताओ, आप मुझे बताओ क्यों होनी चाहिए वैल्यू? बिकॉज वैल्यूज आर मेन स्प्रिंग्स ऑफ मोटिवेशन. देखिए साहब एक बात है, आप यहां पे बैठे हुए एक काम के लिए, मोटिवेशन. यहां पर आप लोग आईएएस बनने आए, समझे आप बात? तो आपका मोटिवेशन है कि मैं आईएएस बन जाऊं. बात क्लियर रखें. हमारा एम क्या है? क्यों बच्चों को सिखाया जाता है लेट अस हैव वैल्यू डेवलपमेंट? कभी सोचा आपने सर क्यों वैल्यू डेवलपमेंट पे इतना एम्फेसिस है? क्योंकि हमें पता है हियर इज एन इंडिविजुअल. नाउ दिस इंडिविजुअल इज द पार्ट ऑफ दिस एनवायरनमेंट. नाउ दिस एनवायरनमेंट इज मेनी टाइम्स an obstacle in the development of, in the display of the value based behavior of the individual. So let us make the value so strong so that such is the motivation level in the person that is able to overcome obstacles and reach the goal. प्रॉब्लम का यही तो प्रॉब्लम है, बात को डिस्कस करेंगे कि देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन टेक्स्ट एंड देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन कॉन्टेक्स्ट। भाई कॉन्टेक्स्ट कहता है भैया पैसे खाओ, टेक्स्ट कहता है जी मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम श्री राम है, सब त्याग दो। मरने से पहले जेब में ले जा तो नहीं सकते कुछ, ये डिफरेंस है। अब हमें मोटिवेशन कहां से मिलना है? हमें मोटिवेशन एक तरीके से मिल रहा है, वैल्यू, एटीट्यूड, morals and ethics. Now what derivation can you make? Now please see this, connect the dots and enjoy the figure. That is the essence of life. Now my question is, I have said values, ethics, morals and attitudes have one thing common in them, that they guide our preference. Now that is why, because they guide our preference, so that is why they are so important in our decision making. इसमें तो कोई टेंशन की बात नहीं है. They are all mainsprings of motivation. Now probably maximum motivation we get from what? Morals. The source of maximum motivation is morals. Why morals score over ethics in motivation? Yes sir. Because it is personal. Anything which is personal will always have greater motivation in it than one which is general. It is personal, therefore motivation is maximum. So if I say a person is of strong morals, so that means what? His character is strong. His character is strong means what? No matter whatever the temptations of the environment, he will not budge. He will not compromise on his position. The basic idea is motivation or not? So the major element inside when we talk about preference, preference is arranging things in the scale of values. यही तो preference है, एक scale है of importance or scale of values. We arrange the things. That is what preference is. So basic element is motivation. Now because of motivation, we talk of morals, we talk of ethics, we talk of values, and we talk of attitudes.
So if a person has values, he is good at both morals, ethics.
यार फिर देखो मैंने फिगर बनाया नहीं बनाया, ये डिपेंड करता है कौन सी वैल्यू है. अब अगर ये वाली वैल्यू है, इसमें मॉरल और एथिक्स तो आते ही नहीं. एमएफ हुसैन यही तो बोलता है. मिस्टर एमएफ हुसैन मेजर कंटेंशन इज व्हाट? आर्ट हैज गॉट जजमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ वेदर इट इज सूदिंग टू सेंसेस और नॉट, फाइन, बट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ गुड, इन द फॉर्म ऑफ राइट आर्ट और अ रॉन्ग आर्ट. ओके सर, राइट एंड रॉन्ग जजमेंट कैन नॉट बी मेड. समझ गए ना बात आप? तो ये आप नहीं कह सकते कि वो जरूरी होगा. हां, आप ये जरूर बोल सकते हो वैल्यू विल हैव एलिमेंट ऑफ जजमेंट इन इट, ये जरूर बोल सकते हो आप. ये भी जरूर बोल सकते हो वैल्यू विल हैव एलिमेंट ऑफ मोटिवेशन इन इट. पर साथ में ये भी बोलोगे देयर आर सम वैल्यूज विच हैव जजमेंट, विच आर मोटिवेशनल एंड विच हेल्प अस मेक डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन राइट एंड रॉन्ग. दैट व्हेन अप्रूव्ड बाय इंडिविजुअल इज मॉरल्स, अप्रूव्ड बाय सोसाइटी इज एथिक्स. क्लियर हुई बात जी? Now my question is, from this understanding, what do you think would be the focus of society with respect to development of morals, values, ethics and attitudes in the children? In the children, of course, because adults are already developed.
Their preferences are directed in a way more.
No, you will say the aim of the society would be to ensure that morals, values, ethics and attitudes are aligned in the same direction. Because if they work at cross purpose, it will leave individual with sense of immense confusion and turmoil. समझे जी बात अब मेरी? One second sir, one second just. But you got my point or not sir? क्या कहने का मतलब है? हमारा एम ये है कि मॉरल, वैल्यूज, एथिक्स और एटीट्यूड सब एक दिशा में काम करें. अगर इनकी दिशा में आपस में विरोधाभास होता है तो सर बड़ा मुश्किल है कि हम किसी नतीजे पे पहुंच पाएंगे. अब आपका मॉरल एक बात कह रहा है और आपका एथिक्स एक अलग बात कह रहा है. यह पॉसिबल है या नहीं है? व्हाट इज मॉरल मे नॉट बी एथिकल, जिस पे तो क्वेश्चन भी आ सकता है. एंड व्हाट इज एथिकल मे नॉट बी मॉरल. नाउ देयर कैन ऑलवेज बी अ क्लैश. फॉर एग्जांपल, आई टोल्ड यू आर अ डॉक्टर. You have to follow medical ethics, but at the same time your moral positioning may be somewhat different. Agreed or not sir? So when we talk of ethics and moral, they may work at cross purpose. So therefore, in society, the more aligned they are in one direction, the more peace and tranquility individual will have, and greater will be the chance he will be motivated to behave in that direction. That is what the aim of education is, to create minimum disagreement among morals, ethics, values and attitudes. Because if there is disagreement, the chances of confusion, the chances of emotional turmoil are high. Because motivation will become weak now if they are opposite to each other.
There are certain societal norms, like say for example prostitution. Can it be considered to be immoral?
Immoral तो आई सर.
Because
Prostitution moral किसके लिए है? क्योंकि immoral इसलिए और unethical भी है. Because prostitution is based on the idea that one is not doing sex for pleasure. It is because that it is also a kind of service that is being provided, because other avenues of winning your bread are not available in given society for certain groups. And second, prostitution is not a matter of choice. Often it is a matter of coercion. And it also is an example of where disadvantaged groups are being exploited. Okay, for this reason. So that is why prostitution will have sanction in no society. It is not sex for pleasure. It is sex for money.
Countries where it is legalized, they are propagating immoral and unethical.
No. Now countries it is immoral, it is legalized, number one. And number two, where the पहले तो वर्ड prostitute ही मेरे को तो लगता है value laden है, पर where the particular individual has freedom to choose whom she will have sex with and to what level and what kind. If there is agreement on that, then there is, if this freedom is there and there is no coercion, then it is okay.
Then cultural specificity
But
comes in.
yes, culture specificity. And second thing is this, actually ma'am, what happens is that to have such kind of, you can say, independence in decision making, even the most liberal countries do not allow. See, legalized is one thing, but there also an element of coercion is there. Are you getting my point? And number two is this, that see, anything which is an intimate behavior, which does not have a specific emotional element in it, becomes a mechanical exercise.
so if you are having a massage, foot massage, say for example, that is also kind of service being provided.
हाँ तो कोई बात नहीं,
without any-
पर उसमें कोयरसन थ्रेट नहीं है ना सर. इसमें तो थ्रेट होगी ना. आपने तो देखा ही सर, मुझे बताने की क्या जरूरत है, क्यों खुलासा चाहते हो. आप जानते हो यार, ये तो तुम मेरे मुंह से इनपुट से निकाल रहे हो कि सर जी बताओ डिटेल में जी कैसे हो रहा है. इस तरह की डिटेल थोड़ा डिस्कशन है यहाँ पर मैं आपसे एक मिनट आपको, आई एम सॉरी, यू हैव टू वेट फॉर फ्यू मोर सेकंड्स बिकॉज द क्वेश्चन वाज सच इमोटिव टाइप. Okay, now foot massage or bodily massage or any kind of massage, sir, I have said same applies for prostitution also. Number one, that you see there is no exploitation of a particular group, because everywhere what boils down to, if you are being given a fair revenue or fair reward for your labor, it is fine and you are happy with it. But any type of coercion, any type of threat, intimidation or exploitation is not welcome of any service. That way I tell you very honestly, be it sexual behavior or be it dental behavior, they are same. Just as you brush your teeth every morning and you change the brush after it is worn out, same way you can change the person also after it is worn out. There is no issue on it. If you bring the element of the behavior to that level, no issues. But you can understand, sexual behavior has one implication also, and that is the emergence of the third body. There is a possibility of that also. Isn't it, sir? So these are the issues, otherwise not anything. And let me tell you, people have been conservative regarding sex for the simple reason that, you see, at the end of the day, there is a possibility of divisions in the society on this behavior. And nobody will like a divided society. Division, for example, division, fight over women. I mean, already there has been many cases of tensions in the relationship over women. This is how it is. And fewer the number, more the tension. Yes, sir.
Sir, actually, you all said that morals, values and ethics should go in same direction. ideally,
as far as possible.
yeah, but ideally, when you are born with values, with conscience and with ego.
भाई साहब ऐसा तो मैं जिंदगी भर नहीं मानूंगा कि you are born with conscience.
Sir, that's what conscience is.
नहीं नहीं, what is conscience?
It doesn't change over a period of
Who says it? I will prove it. You are never born with anything.
Sir, you can get a wisdom. Okay, wisdom is different thing, but
Arey sir, there is a huge no behavioral scientist. Actually, what is there? Philosophers are, in my opinion, most confused entities themselves, and they confuse others also. And that is why I say when two philosophers meet, third philosophy is born. Sir, I tell you honestly, you are born with conscience. There is an healthy ethical core. Man is inside a very saintly person. Let us discover the saint inside you. I agree to an extent is true, but sir, it is principally socialization. That is what we will take up next. So please sir, don't advocate the idea that we are born with values. You advocate the idea we inculcate values through the process of socialization. Now that would be more appropriate idea, sir. Number two, sir, to say that conscience will not change. Sir, if you were born with values and if conscience would not have changed, sir, we would have had society full of conscientious individuals.
bad conscience is also there, sir. It is not only good conscience. Because it's but
नहीं, बैड तो कॉन्शियस है ही नहीं सर. कॉन्शियस की तो डेफिनेशन ही है. पता नहीं आप कहां से पढ़ के लाए हो. कोई बहुत ही टुच्ची किताब से आपने अपनी शिक्षा ग्रहण की है. मेरे को कहने में मजबूर होना पड़ रहा है, क्योंकि गुड कॉन्शियंस, बैड कॉन्शियंस, सर ये तो वही वाली बात हो गई कि कॉन्शियंस आपने टर्म ही चेंज कर दिया. इसलिए मैं बता रहा हूं सर, ये एथिक्स में प्रॉब्लम है. डोंट रीड चीप बुक्स.
corrupt conscience can be right.
नहीं, कॉन्शियंस कैन गेट, सर देखिए अलग अलग लैंग्वेज है. अवर कॉन्शियंस when it gets obliterated from our I would say conscious mind. Now listen. So what can happen? Certain behaviors which are corrupt may happen. Don't talk of corruption of conscience that much as the corruption of behaviors. Just wait for some time. I mean, these details will be very apparent in time to come. But this is what you have understood or not, sir?
But are preferences intrinsic in nature?
It both. Because every behavior is product of this. Heredity into environment. Some behaviors are more heredity and less environment. Other behaviors are less heredity, more environment. बस यही difference है. B is equal to H into E. Behavior is the product of heredity and environment. So if anything is missing, behavior would not unfold. Let us be very clear about it. Some behaviors are more about environment. Some behaviors are about less influence of environment. Is it clear what I have described here? Or you have any confusion, you tell me. Now, sir, what we say further, about prostitution, the question is quite unlikely, to be very honest, at least in next few years. For the reason being, there are other areas to explore. But euthanasia and abortion, again, very controversial. Quite unlikely. Homosexuality is also quite unlikely, but euthanasia, because Supreme Court is mulling over it, and abortion, and also renting of the womb, surrogate motherhood. So these are the issues on which question might appear. Although I am still saying might, because there are some other pressing issues. For example, caste and communal conflict. I see a huge possibility of question being asked on that. So these are slightly emotive issues where society has a divided opinion. So therefore there is a problem, but our idea is very clear. If element of intimidation and coercion is not there, if any behavior is taken not excessively with commercial enterprise in mind, and number three, sir, if that commercial enterprise does not end up in abuse of the body of an individual. Suppose if the behavior has an element of discretion in it, but you are exercising your discretion in a manner that only injures your body. Are you getting my point or not? Then in that case also it will be considered as unethical. Keep in mind this.
Like smoking, sir, it is written there like smoking kills, but then other people smoke. So it is very well known to them, but then after they smoke. So it is unethical, morally
यही तो प्रॉब्लम है सर. दैट इज व्हाट आवर स्कूल हैज फेल्ड. नाउ द प्रॉब्लम इज दिस ओनली. आई हैव बीन अगेन सेइंग एंड सेइंग दैट डिग्री ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ डिफरेंट वैल्यूज डिफर्स. भाई देखो जी, इस पूरे गेम में एक वर्ड है क्रिटिकल. आप समझ लो. वो मैं बात को बताता, लेकिन आपने कंपेल कर दिया कि अभी बता. वो ये है जस्टिफिकेशन. ये है क्रिटिकल वर्ड. इफ यू हैव जस्टिफिकेशन फॉर योर बिहेवियर, नो मैटर वट एवर वैल्यू पोजिशन यू हैव, you will go ahead with it. And where within justification lies what? Selective. हम वो तो है बीच में. Selective perception, selective attention and selective interpretation. ये है. Everything is selective. आप समझ रहे हो बात. आप अगर कोई आपसे पूछे कि इन स्पाइट ऑफ हैविंग अ गिवन वैल्यू, व्हाई डज अ पर्सन बिहेव इन अ मैनर दैट इज एंटागोनिस्टिक टू हिज वैल्यू, तो आप कहोगे साफ जस्टिफिकेशन है उसके पास. तो एज लॉन्ग एज वी कैन जस्टिफाई करप्शन, एज लॉन्ग एज वी कैन जस्टिफाई इनफिडिलिटी, पीपल विल हैव नो क्वाम्स इन कैरिंग आउट इनफिडिलिटी बिहेवियर. For example, many rulers married many women. Some of them they never visited in their lives other than during the time of marriage, leaving them very frustrated physically. Agreed? Now, on how did they justify this behavior? They justified this behavior on the grounds that a king has to marry in order to protect the interest of its subjects. They have justified it. The larger good. There one body is suffering. Okay, but if I would have not married her, many bodies would have suffered. So therefore I married her. Justification. I'm not saying it is reasonable. I've never said that. Generally speaking, it is faulty. But as long as justification is available, things are excellent. And behind all this exercise of justification, what she said is correct, lies insecurity. This is the basic factor. The more insecure you are, the more reality distortion you will indulge in.
Isn't this what dissonance is about?
हाँ बिल्कुल, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. अभी मैं उसी में आ रहा हूं. जस्ट वेट फॉर 1 मिनट. बड़ी शार्प क्लास है. Just wait for 1 minute, but if you continue like this, I am very hopeful that you will get a very good score in ethics. Maintain this sharpness. More number of questions, better it is, the result. Sir, you got the point or not? At least have crystal clear concepts here. Now let us see this understanding. Our values influence our behavior. Likewise, our attitudes also influence our behavior. Same way morals and same way ethics. Now, we want our behavior to be in line with our underlying values, attitude, morals and ethics. But there is a possibility of inconsistency. Inconsistency being present. Now, if there is a possibility of inconsistency in values and behavior, the outcome is conflict. If there is inconsistency in attitude and behavior, outcome is dissonance. If there is inconsistency in morals and behavior, outcome is guilt. And if there is inconsistency in ethics and behavior, outcome is social isolation and social ostracization. This is what our understanding is. देखो जी, चारों के बाद में बताया क्या होता है इनकंसिस्टेंसी. we will want our values and our behavior to be in the same line. Ideally speaking, what is an ideal state in the person? Ideal state is your ethics, your morals, your values, your attitudes and your behavior is in the same line. There is no conflict at all. But if there is an inconsistency present, as it is sometimes present, so between value and behavior, outcome conflict, attitude and behavior dissonance, moral and behavior guilt, and ethics and behavior social isolation. This is what you understand. Clear, sir? All of them have one thing in common. And what is that? They are aversive states. The states which you dislike. Aversive का मतलब है dislike. States which we dislike. They are aversive states. So therefore, the effort is not to have inconsistency. The effort is not to have inconsistency. They are all aversive states. So the effort is not to have inconsistency. However, even when they are aversive states and the effort is not to have inconsistency, many times still inconsistencies appear. Why? Because if we have justification for our behavior, the aversion caused by these outcomes will be minimized, and therefore we continue with those behaviors. This is what our understanding is.
So how can values and behavior be inconsistent?
कमाल है यार, आपकी वैल्यू परसों तो बताया, शायद पहली क्लास में नहीं थे आप, दूसरी में भी नहीं थे, तभी तो क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो. मैंने आपको बताया सर, values and behavior is inconsistent. For example, I have a value of peace and I favor the idea of war against Pakistan. They are inconsistent or not? सर एक बात बता दूं आपको मैं, या तो आप वीडियो देख के आओ या क्लास में तभी सेंस लगेगा जब पुरानी बातें हमारी दिमाग में मौजूद होंगी. ये वाला बात नहीं है ज्योग्राफी की तरह, आज हमने पहाड़ में चलना है, कल नदी में डुबकी लगानी है, तो नदी अलग है, पहाड़ अलग है. यहां हमारी नदी पहाड़ के बीच से ही निकलती है, समझ गए? तो सरिता में गोता लगाने से पहले सोचो कि सरिता का किस स्थान से उत्पत्ति है. इंग्लिश वर्जन, फ्रॉम वेयर द रिवर हैज ओरिजिनेटेड, एंड आवर रिवर originates from specific locations, so we need comprehensiveness. Yeah, sir, remember this, in this life there are two approaches, molecular and molar. Molar means a holistic approach. Now in ethics you cannot have molecular approach. When you write one dimensional answer you get a poor score, when you write multi-dimensional answer you get a better score. तभी आप इतने क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो, otherwise we have already spoken. But remember this, that these are the states, and at the end of the day, as I said yesterday, that whatever action we will take will be based on cost benefit analysis. Whether to continue behaving in line with ethics, or to continue behaving in line with morals, or to violate morals and ethics is contingent on cost benefit analysis. You understand very well, we continue a relationship only till the time the benefits are more than the cost involved. As simple as that. If the reverse happens, if the cost is more, benefit is less, the outcome is separation. कोई भी रिश्ता हो, whether with father and mother, whether with brothers, between brothers, or with the spouse. मदर में कॉस्ट बेनिफिट है, क्यों नहीं है? बिल्कुल है. बच्चे छोड़ ही देते अपनी मां को. अजीब बुरा बुरा, अरे तो मदर एंड चाइल्ड बोला ना आपने, तो कोई तो छोड़ेगा. मां भी ऐसी है सर, बहुत महान आदमी हो आप, पर देयर आर सम मदर्स हु आर वेरी सेल्फ. फॉर एग्जांपल सर, आई विल टेल यू व्हाई आर यू प्रॉब्लमैटिक. You marry a young lady very beautiful, she harbored the design to become Miss Universe. Now she could not because you impregnated her. Now what will happen? The so-called the period of pregnancy will be distressful for her or not because she doesn't want the new one. Sir, it is like this. See, more commodification means every relationship has a price tag attached on it. This is the way it is. But I totally agree with young man's idea that if you can get unconditional love from any source, it is only mother.
Cost benefit, isn't it in conflict with the idea of essential goodness?
That also cost benefit. Read Ayn Rand.
So mechanical.
Ayn Rand is Ayn Rand indicates this, that you see altruism is an attempt at humiliating others only. If you see, there is something called as individual egoism, ethical egoism. See, at the end of the day, please remember like this. It may seem mechanical, but let me tell you like this, that we are talking about emotional cost also. We are not calculating the cost only in monetary terms. Point clear or not? This is what it is. After all, you know it very well. You will not speak to every man in the town. You will speak to only those men whom you feel worthy of having conversation with, and where conversation will be somewhat interesting. You tell me, sir, all conversations we have carried out are only with those people whom we find that it can be rewarding to some extent or not. Tell me. So what is it? Cost benefit only.
So if the mother doesn't let go of a child, is it because she has more emotional attachment instead of cost benefit?
Mother, more emotional attachment with the job. It is like this. And sir, although I totally agree that if there is one relationship which has an element of unconditionality in it, it is with mother only. Total agreement, sir. But let me also admit at the same breath that such mothers are in short supply. You know why? Because the more ambitious the female is, less happiness she will have. And the less affinity with the child will occur. Because you have, although I totally agree, sir, there is a concept of balance, etc., which we will also discuss. But the point is, ambition is a problem. Because it does not stop at ambition. You tend to become over ambitious. Enough for human need, nature has, but not enough for human greed. Mahatma Gandhi.
Sir, while writing answer, should we give an example of people like Ayn Rand who makes one person more selfish? Like
No, see, Ayn Rand philosophy not everybody agrees with. Number one. And number two, you don't use these value-laden words. You say that I work for my satisfaction. Why you want to say I am selfish? You put it like this. Our effort is to ensure our behaviors are the source of satisfaction for us. That is the better way, sir. Language is the key, sir. I tell you, in ethics, if the score comes on the lower side, there is a serious problem in the presentation of ideas, particularly the choice of words. I will give you a very simple conversation. I asked you, what is the time by your watch? You said, apne baap se keh gadi le le. Now, what is this answer? What is this answer? Problem तो यही है ना, कई लोग ऐसी लठमार भाषा का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. और झूठ मत बोल. कन्वर्सेशन देखो आप, चेप हो गया, एग्जाम फोड़ दिया, भाषा का निरादर, एग्जाम फोड़ दिया, चेप हो गया, बड़ा चेप हो रहा है. अब ये जो चेप हो रहा है, जब सारी दिन रात आप यही लैंग्वेज सुनोगे और यही बोलोगे, बगल वाला भी यही बोल रहा है, तो एग्जाम में यही निकलने वाला है, चेप हो गई, चेप हो गया. ये जो चेप है, या सर ये अभद्र शब्द है. You see, I will give you a very example of shift in the language. You take the way the Kapil speaks. Mr. Kapil, comedian who speaks. Now, we had such kind of shows earlier also in the form of Kavi Sammelan. Hasya Kavi Sammelan. And see the language that was used there.
This is cheap humor.
Again, value laden. But people like it. It is the taste of the town.
Many people derive enjoyment from humiliating others.
You are absolutely correct, ma'am. But I will tell you one thing. One reason is that people have stopped reading books. That is also a factor. Thanks the invasion of mass media, today book reading has come down to a large extent. So that is also a factor. But you may say cheap, but it is the cheap that sells. So since commodification is almost on everything, so what sells is the best.
Then ethics comes.
Their ethics comes, but unfortunately there is where, because our ethical fiber is weak. So, and money justifies many things, as we discussed yesterday or day before yesterday, that intangible versus tangible. It is generally the tangible that wins. So there is where the trouble is. So coming back to, and you can see the language used in the schools these days, in the junior grades, even by the teachers also at times. And I tell you, you can even use that language, but then the use of that language with modesty, bodily, and use of that language with an attempt to humiliate. For example, you may say few things. You can call a person a dog, but the way you call a person a dog, you are my faithful dog. If you say like this, it is still very positive. Hey, kutte. Now, if this is said, it's very cheap. So tone matters. This is what I said, non-verbal communication. Sir, coming back to now taking the issues further.
All these conflicts, to an extent, it's more out of the control of the individual.
Out of the control of the individual means what?
Means what this value attitude from the childhood, they are being reinforced with the different things.
Sir, just see, we are going to that only. Most of your problem will get solved. Next is this only, development of morals, ethics, values and attitude. We are taking up this only. Development of morals, ethics, values and attitude. And needless to say, what we embark upon is the concept of socialization. Now question comes, what is socialization? Lifelong process of shaping individuals' social tendencies so that he becomes and remains a useful and productive member of his society. This is socialization. Lifelong process of shaping individual social tendencies so that he becomes and he remains a useful and productive member of his society. Means what? Socialization is a story that starts after we have arrived from the womb of our mother and will continue till we enter our tomb. So a story will begin with womb and end with tomb. That is what socialization is. Another way of defining it, a nascent biological infant. It's a process by which a nascent biological infant becomes a sharing and participating member of his society. Nascent biological infant becomes sharing and participating member of his society. Both cases it is socialization. It can also be defined as a process by which a child is indoctrinated into his culture. A child is indoctrinated into his culture. This is also socialization. And the fourth one, so many definitions, because socialization is the most important thing in the entire story. And socialization is a process by which culture is transmitted from one generation to next. Culture is transmitted from one generation to next. And number two, individual develops his personality by learning the contents of his culture. Individual develops his personality by learning the contents of his culture. This is how we describe socialization. And by the way, what is culture? So we have a definition for that also. A big way of life is the best definition when you don't want to be correct at the same time not explain anything. It is perfect. Sum total of values and behavior patterns that are shared and transmitted by the members of a given society. Among the members, shared and transmitted among the members of a given society. This is what is culture. Sum total of the values and behavior patterns that are shared and transmitted among the members of a given society. That is, this shows very clearly that what are values, attitude, morals and ethics? They are the building blocks of individual's personality. And what is personality? Personality is the culture of the society which is reflected in the behavior of the individual. Culture of the society which is reflected in the behavior of the individual. If I want to describe the relationship, I will describe it like this. Culture of the society reflected in the behavior of the individual. Sir, clear or not? This is what our understanding is about what is socialization. Now, with the help of diagram also, we will try to present the same as follows. Everything is beautiful with the diagram. So this is our diagram here to represent socialization. This is a nascent biological infant. This nascent biological infant eventually becomes a sharing, participating and productive member of his society. This process is called as socialization. Now, in this process, what we witness is a march of somewhat self-centric individual, self-centric biological entity to become relatively selfless social entity. Self-centric biological entity displayed a movement to become relatively selfless social entity. This is socialization. समझ में आ रही है जी बात? So I am born asocial. I am a biological unit. That is why when you are, somebody asks you, who are you? And you are just, say for example, 5-year-old or 4-year-old, so you will say, uncle, I am a male. I am 3.5 feet tall. Then you will start with some details. Okay, that my father's name is this, my mother's name is this, my name is this. So little bit social entity development is there. But basically you start with this kind of a thing. I am a boy. My height is this. My weight is this. Okay, sir, this is what our understanding is. So march is socialization.
Socialization always has a positive connotation.
100% जी. Value का भी positive connotation है. Unfortunately these days we have things like Taliban also. So therefore values have changed a bit and we talk in the terms of positive and negative values. Otherwise we will talk in the terms of socialization or desocialization or social rejection. We will not talk in the terms of negative socialization. There are some people who speak about that, but generally the term is positive.
They say that he is the victim of the society, like this.
Victim है ना word? Sir, adjective भी तो qualifier है. He is the victim of the society. Means what? जो मैंने बोला, product of social rejection. आप तो खुद ही इस्तेमाल कर रहे हो अपने शब्द में, victim of the society. Victim लगाया नहीं लगाया आपने? कोई ऐसा नहीं बोलेगा, he is the product of the society. We are all products of the society. But socialization generally has positive connotation in it. ये याद रखें जी. ये development है. In this development, from a self-centric biological entity to become a relatively selfless social entity. Why I have written relatively selfless? Because you cannot become completely selfless. It's very, very difficult. We encounter many things. These become agencies of socialization. For example, family, school, peer groups, media, religious institutions, and workplace. These all are agencies of socialization. Each agency we will take into consideration in some detail because they have already listed in your syllabus. Role of family, role of school, role of important administrators and thinkers in shaping of the individual's behavior. These are various agencies. And these are the mechanisms. Observation learning. Conditioning. Observation learning, conditioning, role playing or play acting, and trial and error are the mechanisms. That influence our outcomes. These are agencies and these are mechanisms. Means in these agencies, these mechanisms operate. In these agencies, these mechanisms operate.
Given these agencies, then socialization is the same thing as institutionalization.
No. Institutionalization is slightly value-loaded word. Are you getting my point? Where I personally go with this assumption that certain values of institutions are ingrained, okay, in the individual with specific intention. These are institutions only. But the beauty with socialization is socialization allows you to become your own person. Are you getting my point? Nowhere your right to become your own person is snatched. So you will be selfless in your own way, your neighbor will be selfless in his own way. That is the beauty of socialization. That is why it is such a positive force.
But no socialization is also socialization.
Sir, can you exist in vacuum?
No, sir.
अरे किसी के तक कांटेक्ट में आओगे यार, ऐसा एक बच्चा हो सकता है, एग्जाम्पल है फेरल चाइल्ड ऑफ एवरॉन, मतलब वुल्फ चिल्ड्रन. अब उनकी भी सोशलाइजेशन थी, कहीं तो दूध पिया उसने, भेड़िए का ही पिया तो सही. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता सर कि आई एम विदाउट सोशलाइजेशन, नॉट पॉसिबल.
It is not like that. It is like most of the time now young generation they try to de-socialize themselves in the justification of liberalization. Like liberalization allows us to do everything.
अरे यही तो आपने बोल दिया, ऑलरेडी बोल दिया सर. सोशलाइजेशन पैटर्न्स में भी डिफरेंट.
Now we are Facebooking.
हाँ, that is also media. That's media, mass media. So Facebook has emerged as a very important part of socialization. Are you getting my point? So now what are we doing? More than conditioning, it is observation learning. This is the way it is. But remember, socialization agencies which are involved may be different types. But socialization is a story of involving these agencies to develop certain value systems in the individual. And remember, implicit in the idea of socialization is that the individual will have some discretion with respect to which values will he like to imbibe and which he would not. And also, as I told you, that the values which are imbibed, they will result in the expression of behaviors which are unique to the individual. Point clear, sir, or not? This is what you keep in mind. Process of socialization, observation learning, role playing or play acting, conditioning, reward and punishment, trial and error. Now let me tell you, sir, these mechanisms, observation learning, for example, as our friend told, is it positive? Now you may have models in your environment which are negative. So there is a possibility of you emerging with a man with a negative values. There are models in the environment which are positive. So you will emerge as a man with positive values. So this is the way observation learning goes on. समझ गए ना बात आप? Conditioning. Now reward and punishment. The more just it is, the more systematic it is, and the more prompt it is, more effective the socialization. The more arbitrary it is, the greater is the delay between the action and the reward, or the action and the punishment, more difficult the process of socialization becomes. Same way, role playing or play acting. In our life, we have played various roles. Depending upon the role you have played, will decide the role you will play. For example, you have been assigned a role of immense responsibility in your home. Now today when you become a bureaucrat, you are a very responsible bureaucrat. Because you have already played a very responsible role in your home. That is role playing. Or you have played various roles. For example, you played a role of bus conductor, then orchestra conductor. Okay, so father told, these conductors are not good. Become a scientist with research on semiconductor. Okay, and as a result of that, effort at this direction was made. Role playing. In fact, role playing is very important in childhood to understand things, because you get to understand that what are the different roles and what values society attaches to different roles. That is what our understanding is. And role playing is also important because you can understand that when you enact a particular role and you do it in an ingenious fashion, so society appreciates the way you have enacted a given role. That is what our understanding is. And finally, trial and error. Life is not just about verbal learning, it's about motor learning also. Few things you cannot learn if I describe to you. For example, how to ride a horse. You have to go there, ride it, and then learn it. This is the way we ride it. Point clear? So this is the way agency, the various mechanisms of socialization function. There is another very good diagram to represent socialization, which is as follows.
Can you please elaborate on trial and error? When you say in the process of socialization, a child is practicing something as a form of trial and error. So does he ponder over this fact that what is the error that he made, or
कमाल है यार, तुम्हारा इतने बेहतरीन बच्चे हो तुमने नहीं सोचा कि गलतियां कहां की है तुमने? जब आपने बाइसिकल चलाई पहली बार, सोचिए, मेरी पहली साइकिल यात्रा 4 बार मैं गिरा, 2 बार घुटने टूट गए, 3 बार प्लस्तर चढ़ गया, पिताजी ने अपशब्द का प्रयोग किया, डॉक्टर ने हड्डी सेट की, मैं रियलाइज कर लिया कि भैया पेडल में हल्के से जोर दिखाना है, ज्यादा नहीं दिखाना पेडल में जोर, नहीं तो अंगूठा टूट जाता है. ये क्या है? भैया सोशलाइजेशन क्या है भाई साहब? सोशलाइजेशन जो है यही तो है. यही तो है. अब आपने अपने मुंह से ही बोल दिया लर्निंग ऑफ सोशल वैल्यूज तो है. क्यों जी? इट इज अबाउट लर्निंग एक्सरसाइज ओनली सर. What else is socialization? But every time we surface the different things in the society, do we learn something or not? Yes. If you can learn, you can always grow. If you do not learn, you abort learning. So never think socialization and learning are different mechanisms. कोई टेंशन ही नहीं सर. Now the next diagram you can enjoy. और यहां पे भी लिखा है सर सेल्फ सेंट्रिक. ये वही आंसर है जो हमने कुछ दिन क्वेश्चन पूछा था. We can forgive a child who is fearful of dark, but real tragedy is that is of men who fear the light. If you fear the dark, I can forgive you because here you are self-centric and it is your biological limitation. But if you fear light, you are supposed to be here and you should not be fearing light. So what is the moral of the story? I draw inspiration from your word, young lady, and present you with this understanding. ये देखो जी आप बढ़िया तरीके से एक और डायग्राम आपकी सूरत देख के याद आ गया मुझे. हर चेहरे में कुछ ना कुछ लिखा होता है, सिर्फ पढ़ने के लिए नजर चाहिए और नजाकत भी चाहिए नजर के साथ. We are born with this. Feeling of inferiority. Why? We are helpless in the hostile world. Options available. Striving for superiority by making an effort to complete oneself. देखो जी कितनी अच्छी बात है. हम अपने को पूरा करने में लगे, तुम्हारे को आधा करने में नहीं लगे. जिंदगी में बहुत बड़ी बात है सर. Striving for superiority by exposing and highlighting the inferiority in others. Exposing and highlighting the limitations of others. तुम्हारे अंदर ये नहीं है, अगर मेरे अंदर नहीं है तो तुम्हारे अंदर भी नहीं है. समझ गए जी बात आप? अब बस आप ये मत सोचो कि अगर मेरे अंदर नहीं है उसके अंदर भी नहीं है तो मैं खुश हो जाऊं. जैसे कई लोग खुश हो जाते हैं कि आई फेल्ड इन द एग्जामिनेशन, but I'm very glad my neighbor has also failed and he was brighter than me. What level of satisfaction I am now? Rather than thinking that both of you should pass, you are happy that both of you have failed. Such cheap thought. And he now here देखो ये नए मार्कर तो लाए हो आप, पर दोनों नहीं चलते. इसलिए पता किससे क्या इंस्पिरेशन लेते हो आप बताओ. द यंगर ना चेक तो बेटा लोकल आंसर है. ब्रिलियंट आंसर ये होता है द न्यू ब्रूम स्वीप्स वेल but the old broom knows the corners better, and most of the dust is in the corner. नया झाड़ू जो है ना सफाई बढ़िया करता है, पर जिंदगी कोने का नाम है, सारी गंदगी कोने में ही होती है. समझ गया बात? तो सर कोने ढूंढ लेना भी एक कला है. The beauty of the language is that while it should carry one meaning on surface, there should be multiple meaning beneath, so that audience keeps guessing what he meant. So that is what the idea is. ये देखिए आप आगे क्या होता है, ये होता है healthy style of life. Constructive, healthy and constructive style of life. और यहां पर होगा सर destructive style of life. अब हेल्दी एंड कंस्ट्रक्टिव स्टाइल ऑफ लाइफ से आपके लिए क्या होगा? इंडिविजुअल विल विटनेस ग्रोथ, psychological growth and well-being, because there will be optimism, sense of fulfillment, whereas here individual will witness stifling of growth, psychological growth, stifling of psychological growth, and maladjustment. Stifling of psychological growth and maladjustment, which in turn will lead to what? Depression, yes. Dejection and underutilization of potential. Underutilization of potential. Depression, dejection and underutilization of potential. Sir, striving for superiority. Why did I strive for superiority? Sir will tell us. Because the kind of agencies that I interacted with, school, peer group, यहां पर है सर एजेंसीज ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन, यहां पर भी है सर एजेंसीज ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन. The role models which were available there and the kind of conditioning paradigms which are available there when I witnessed positive growth, and role models which were there when I witnessed negative growth, sir, were different. That made all the difference. हाँ ये कह सकते हो बिल्कुल आप. जिंदगी में दो ही चीजें हैं साहब, तीसरी चीज तो हमें चाहिए नहीं, और वो दो चीजें ही हैं. Unconditional love. You are very lucky if you have received one. No conditions attached. It will not make a child vagabond. It will only make the child better. Because unconditional love doesn't mean indulgence. Remember this. There is a difference between indulgence and unconditional love. in your pursuits which are directed towards growth, I stand by you and with you without conditions attached. समझे ना बात? अगर आप कहो जी मैं सिविल सर्विसेज तफरी के लिए कर रहा हूं तो मेरा प्यार नहीं है, लेकिन आप पूरी जोर और मेहनत से काम कर रहे हो तो मैं आपके साथ हूं. यह है अनकंडीशनल लव. दिस इज अनकंडीशनल लव. सर, गॉट द पॉइंट? एंड empathic understanding. If you have empathy element in it, nothing better in it. These are the two outstanding things which positive agents get. Negative social, most of us are like this only, sir. Let me tell you, this is the reason behind unhappiness. कौन सा? अनकॉन्शियस अनकॉन्शियस बोथ. मुझे बताओ ना सर, व्हेन पेरेंट्स emphasized on one thing, you must get into IIT. You got into IIT. Then they highlighted that had you done mechanical engineering, it would have been much better than the chemical engineering which you have done. Ab sir, you loved chemicals right from childhood. The first time when teacher took you to the lab and spilled hydrochloric acid on the other party, you felt a wave of new excitement. Because that was your first tryst with burning sensation induced by acid. Then teacher reminded you, similar acid you carry inside. You asked the teacher, such acidic item I am. The teacher explained why this acid was so necessary. Ab sir, chemicals you were fond of, and these parents insisted, no, mechanical. Life will become mechanical or not?
Sir, isn't that good for the productivity?
Con productivity?
If the two conditions that you mentioned, right in the very nascent stage of an individual.
यार nascent में तो पता ही नहीं चलेगा बच्चे को, ये तो तभी होगा सर जब थोड़ा सा ये हो जाए. और दूसरी बात, बेटा एक बार बता दूं, तुम बाप बनने वाले हो कुछ साल बाद, याद रखना, एक मेरी बात याद रखना, आज ये किताब फाड़ना मत. बेटा बच्चे को कैसे गले से लगाते हो ना, बच्चे को सब पता चल जाता है. मैं आपको बता रहा हूं सर, आज गारंटी की सौदा बता रहा हूं. Father came inside. The child rushes to the father and clings on to him. Great attachment. Father come inside. अगर ऐसे ट्विस्ट कर रहा ना बच्चा तो समझ लेना पूरा नहीं पड़े बाप के रूप पे. You may be biological father, but you are definitely not psychological father. ये याद रखना सर. इसीलिए वही असली बाप है जिसके चेहरे से हंसी नहीं जाती. Smile even in the most distressful circumstances will make children cheerful, sir. I tell you, you are very blessed if you have parents who most of the time keep smiling rather than identifying mistakes in each other. And you are certainly, sir, not blessed even when you are cognitively very superior if you have parents who keep finding limitations in each other. समझ गए बात सर? जिंदगी में कभी भी कमेंट और कॉम्प्लीमेंट में चॉइस है ना, हमेशा कॉम्प्लीमेंट देना, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता उससे. ये है सर, आप देखो, इनफैक्ट यू विल बी एस्टोनिश्ड. दिस इज व्हाट आई विल डू इन फैमिली, दैट इवन इन द फर्स्ट ईयर बेबी कैन नोटिस व्हाट काइंड ऑफ वार्मथ माय फादर हैज. Whereas very rarely it is so. In the first year, child will hold the father. Father will hold the child. Very rarely it is so. But mother also, breastfeeding. The child understands that is this breastfeeding done with love and care, or just because I am hungry and she has to do something, she is doing it. Going over the motions or love and affection. अब तो huggies है, अलग बात है. Otherwise, diaper is wet. The mother and the father both these days, because you can understand, the life is such where both people have to contribute, okay, in the nurturance of the child. So therefore, if they do not change the diaper, the child lies there in wet, becomes a cold person. इन्होंने मेरा डायपर चेंज नहीं किया, मैं दुनिया का डायपर चेंज नहीं करूंगा. समझ गए बात? सबको गीला रखूंगा, ये है मेरे अंदर जोश। ऐसी तो बनता है ठंडा आदमी। आदमी सिर्फ गर्म होना चाहिए सर। जिस आदमी के अंदर गर्माहट नहीं है ना सर, वो बेकार है, बगैर गरमाइश का आदमी। वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, आउटस्टैंडिंग थिंग, यू आर हॉट और नॉट डज नॉट मैटर, यू शुड बी वार्म। लोग इंटेंसिटी बढ़ा रहे फालतू, कह रहे जी यू आर हॉट, यू आर हॉट। अ हॉट पर्सन कैन बी कोल्ड, बट अ वार्म पर्सन विल नेवर बी कोल्ड। तो जो चीज है ना वो है वार्मथ। And I tell you, I keep saying this, it does not take a series of meetings for us to appreciate the degree of warmth we have. Every behavior, sir, is indication of warmth. So a teacher need not tell the students that what level of participation he has in the class. The students will automatically see in the behavior of the teacher. यही तो सर जिंदगी में गलती में हम जी रहे हैं सर, गलत फहमी में। हमें लगता है हमें लोगों को बताना पड़ेगा मैं ऐसा हूं, मैं वैसा हूं। अरे लोग सब जानते हैं आप कैसा हो, आपको कहने की जरूरत नहीं है कि आई एम अ वेरी हम्बल इंडिविजुअल। वो बिहेवियर में नजर आता है कि वो हम्बल है या नहीं है। एंड इफ वी आर हम्बल फॉर आवर ओन रीजंस। लेट मी टेल यू, सेल्फलेस मार्च टुवर्ड्स बिकमिंग रिलेटिवली सेल्फलेस।
Sir, you have said like if you want to give compliment and comment, you choose compliment. You language makes a lot of difference, tone makes a lot of difference. So are we not deviating from it is not unethical, it is not dishonest to be doing so, which we don't intend to.
यार कमाल है, अगर मैं तुमसे बोलूं कि तुम यार बड़े जोशीले आदमी हो क्योंकि बार बार क्वेश्चन पूछते हो, ये तो नजर का खेल है। एक टीचर सोचेगा क्या बदतमीज लड़का है, हर 2 मिनट में क्वेश्चन पूछता है। दूसरा टीचर समझ रहा है कितना जोशीला आदमी है, बार बार हाथ उठा रहा है। हाथ उठाने के लिए भी तो मसल चाहिए, तरीका है सर देखने का, नजर का खेल है। अरे सर मैं एक बात बता रहा हूं, आप ये करो ना ऊपर वाला गेम। मैं तो ये पूछता हूं हर क्वेश्चन जो आप मुझसे पूछोगे और जिसका उत्तर मेरे पास नहीं भी होगा, मुझे मजबूर करेगा कि मैं घर में जाऊं और उत्तर को ढूंढूं। शायद ये मेरी बढ़ोतरी में मदद करेगा। English version. You ask me the question, I am not able to provide the answer. It will compel me to look for the answer. I will have at least the answer for similar questions that are asked later on in life. It is the way you look at it. And this is what is called as this effort. Second है, मैं रिवेंज में आ जाऊं, मुझसे क्वेश्चन पूछता है, ये ले वापस क्वेश्चन, अब मैं तेरे से पूछूंगा। फिर मैंने बकवास शुरू कर दी, जब तू पैदा भी नहीं हुआ था मैंने पीएचडी कर ली थी। क्या नॉनसेंस है, जो पहले पैदा होगा वो पहले करेगा। ये क्या बात हो गई भाई, जो पहले पैदा होगा वही तो पहले करेगा। मेरा नाम अभिमन्यु है, पर इसका मतलब ये थोड़ा कि मां के पेट से करके आऊं। देखिए आप तो सर ये तो तरीके में प्रॉब्लम है ना। एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इट्स ऑल परसेप्शन गेम सर। And what I'm trying to say is don't have over optimism as well. That is also not welcome. But at least have, wherever the choice be, less pessimism and more optimism. That is what I've said.
So this is like different between two people, like smart person and gentleman person. So person like tend to think himself smart if he is able to give this positive effect.
यार ये गलत बोल रहे हो ना तुम समझ नहीं रहे हो। अगर मैं आपकी तारीफ भी करूंगा सर मैंने अभी क्या बोला था आपको, मैं आपसे ये बोल दूं हाँ मेरे शेरू, तुम बुरा नहीं मानोगे क्योंकि मैंने इतने प्यार से बोला है। आप ध्यान तो वही तो है ना सर, ये जरूरी नहीं है। दिस इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से, यू कैन ऑलवेज आइडेंटिफाई एंड डिस्कवर पॉजिटिव्स इन द पर्सन इफ यू वांट टू। फिनिश्ड। आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? दिस इज द वे। यस मैम। Yeah, absolutely. That is what I want to say. That you see, there are so many things to appreciate in the other person, even in the most negative item in the world. At least his negativity, if not anything else. That we should not have that negativity. It's all about appreciation. See, I am belittling myself if I believe that I cannot learn anything from this individual. Do I know that individual? How can I claim that, well, I am, this individual is has no potential to teach me? He has potential to teach me many things. Keep in mind this. That is why we have said this. Clear? Now I present the third diagram also in the socialization exercise. Please enjoy. Social institutions, morals, values, attitude and ethics, and human behavior. Now what does this indicate? This indicates that social institutions will bring about change in the individual's morals, attitude, values and ethics, which in turn will bring about the change in behavior. Social institutions, in a way, just for your easy understanding, provides us the stimulus. And this stimulus influences what? The organism. Because these are inside the individual, which in turn produces what? The response. SOR. Stimulus, organism and response. Now, when they provide social institutions, some provide some stimulus, means training, etc., etc. So we develop attitude, values, morals and ethics. Now this results in behavior. Now if this behavior provides reinforcement, this will get strengthened and this will also get strengthened. Say for example, your parents taught you lessons in honesty, value. Now you displayed honesty in your social setting. People appreciated you for being honest. You got internal satisfaction for also being honest. So now honesty as a value will be strengthened or not? And social institutions will be more motivated to provide lessons in honesty. That is the way it is. Sir, clear? And some of the behaviors are direct. Few things social institutions provide direct, bypassing attitude, values, morals and ethics are not there present. Can you give me an example of bypassing?
A certain event can, for example, if a person is honest and he says...
नहीं honest तो फिर तो value होगी ना sir. मैं तो कह रहा हूँ bypassing.
Media.
Ma'am, bypassing you can always say some of the mundane habits, some of the mundane things which have been mastered to the point of habits. Give me one example. Hello तो sir फिर भी वो है habits, like for example riding a bicycle, driving a scooter, राइडिंग अ स्कूटर, ड्राइविंग अ कार, ये भी तो सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन ही प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं. बट देयर इज नो एथिक एंड वैल्यू अटैच देयर. Are you getting my point? This is the way it is. Of course, safe driving is a separate thing, but otherwise the very act of driving is automatic now. Are you getting my point? Not everything, sir, because you can remember, only things which are the capstone of your individuality would generally be the things in the form of attitude, values, morals and ethics, or which are the capstone of your social mark or your social identity would be the example of this. There are few things which are not the part of social identity or individual personal identity. So they are generally not going to be through morals, they do not involve the presence of moral, ethics, values and attitude. Only most important things would have the presence of them. And everything, there are few mundane things we do. For example, sir, wearing trouser. Now we have to pull it up, place it at the right place. Okay, sir, and then put the belt on. So what is it? It is there. You don't think in the terms of attitude and values when you pull the trouser up. Agreed or not? So these are more mundane activities. Dressing up aesthetically is a separate thing. This is what our understanding is. Now we take the role of each agency separately. First of them is family. We take up the role of family in inculcation of values in children. So our first discussion would be the role played by family. Yes.
So if already the human behavior is built up with the conflicts in all these four basic constructs, so in that case, what are the options he is having? One is he can justify and move on, and other option is search for unconditional love and impact.
No, I couldn't get the question. If
individual behavior is already developed with the conflicts among all these four important.
No, whatever be the conflict, ultimately one position will be taken. You can't carry conflict inside. If there is a conflict between self-esteem versus social approval, you will have to take a side. Do you go in for social approval or you go in for self-esteem? You cannot have both things together. Are you getting my point, sir? If there is a conflict between whether to follow the so-called suggestion of your heart and marry your sweetheart, or suggestion of your father and marry someone else. So therefore, in that situation, sir, you will have to take a position. It cannot be like this. I will marry what my father suggests, but my heart is there with sweetheart. It will create tension in the society.
So in that
Clarity regarding this. Ultimately, you will have to arrive at one position. Without arriving at that position, you cannot operate.
So that's what I'm saying, to arrive at particular position, either we justify it with some personal understanding and all.
Or you can inflate the value of something. For example, a life is all about perception. Once you have taken the decision, you will have dissonance. Yahi to problem. This is called as ethical dilemma. What is ethical dilemma? Ethical and moral dilemmas are the same things. Now, in either the choice of one means that you will be bereft of the other one. So you will have to take a position, and ultimately the choice in favor of which the decision has been made, its value will be enhanced, so that you at least have consolation inside that you have made a right decision. That is why, to some extent, each one of us is guilty of some deception in his life. But there are some who deceive themselves on daily basis. They are not welcome. There are some who do it occasionally. Okay, that is fine. If occasionally you say grapes are sour, even when they are sweet, it's okay. But if on daily basis you know they are very sweet, you know you desperately want them, and you keep saying them, they are not sweet, it's not good. Because this will lead to mental behavior, sir, mentally abnormal behavior. Now, role of family.
Sir, when you say that psychological growth, it is absolutely different from the growth in life, right?
ग्रोथ क्या है यार? ग्रोथ तो ऐसा है, कल आप 3 फुट के थे, आज 6 फुट के हो गए, ये है ग्रोथ. इसमें एथिक्स कहां आ गई भाई? मैं लंबा होता चला गया, क्यों होता चला गया भाई? क्योंकि मैच्योरेशनल प्रोसेस था भाई. वी आर नॉट डिस्कसिंग मैच्योरेशनल प्रोसेस सर. ग्रोथ कैन ऑल्सो अकर बिकॉज ऑफ द मैच्योरेशनल प्रोसेस. Are you getting my point or not, sir? We are not here into biology. We are here into sociology. Social institutions and their growth engineered. Keep in mind this. Family. What is family? Each one of us has a family. Madam will tell us.
A social institution where we are nourished.
Very good.
Inculcated with some
No,
values.
very good. Social institution where we are inculcated with some values. I take this. I have no problem with the definition. Anything else you want to add?
There's no contract between it.
Contract, without contract.
Yes. It's like
Informal institution. It is an informal agency of socialization. There is no doubt about it. But this is a better definition. Network of relationships. Marked by cooperation, continuity, and emotionality. Not duplicated in any other system. Network of relationships marked by cooperation, continuity, and emotionality, not duplicated in any other system. These three are outstanding features of family. You can say, well, there is fight between people. I agree. But in general, it's a cooperative unit. Now, whenever we discuss the role of family in the socialization of children and the development of social values in children, so we have to discuss under 3 headings. Number 1, styles of parenting. Number 2, role of mother. And number 3, role of father. Father comes last. सिबलिंग में पियर में कर लेंगे ना सर, इसलिए many times there is only one child, though it is a rare thing in India. Indians are very much keen on adding one more or adding many more depending upon the versatility level. Styles of parenting. आप ही बताओ जी, पेरेंटिंग आप ही को सबसे बेहतरीन पता होगा. What is parenting?
It's a style or a way of raising child.
Most simple way to describe child rearing practices. How you rear up the children. behavior displayed by parents to discipline their children and inculcate values in them. डिसिप्लिन जी पहला ये होता लाइफ का, क्योंकि हम सब इनडिसिप्लिन्ड लोग हैं. टू डिसिप्लिन देयर चिल्ड्रन एंड इनकलकेट वैल्यूज इन देम. एंड parents translate their love and affection for their children into different styles of parenting. Into different styles of parenting. Love and affection for their children into different styles of parenting. And depending upon the style adopted, parenting can be classified into three types. Three types. 1, 2, and 3. Three types. Number 1, authoritarian. Number 2, डेमोक्रेटिक, जो कि हिंदुस्तान में वैसे नजर आती नहीं है. परमिसिव. एक्चुअली वी आर अ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री बट वी डोंट हैव अ डेमोक्रेटिक माइंड. प्रॉब्लम ये है, कंट्री डेमोक्रेटिक है, माइंड बड़ा फ्यूडल है. तो फ्यूडल माइंड के साथ डेमोक्रेटिक पेरेंटिंग कैसे होगी? जवान लगाता हमसे, बदतमीज कहेगा. ये रिएक्शन होता कई मैनी पेरेंट्स का. एंड पर्टिकुलरली विद बॉयज, आई मीन यू डोंट सी एनी डेमोक्रेसी. इट इज ऑटोक्रेसी और बीटोक्रेसी. कीप बीटिंग हिम. नाउ अथॉरिटेरियन, आई मीन हार्डली सर, आई मीन children have passed through their entire period without being at least slapped by their parents, particularly boys. Very few of them where parents are very controlled. But such controls are generally missing. Because if father has a control, then probably the egging is by the mother. मारते क्यों नहीं इसको? बदतमीज जुबान लगा रहा है. अब क्या करोगे आप? भाई इज्जत बचाने के लिए मारना ही पड़ता है. भाई if not anything else. ये देखो.
Required for discipline and inculcating values, right? That is required for discipline.
No, why beat, sir? You can do many other things also.
जो बातों से नहीं समझते उसको रास्ते में.
तो ऐसी बात ही क्यों आई? इसका मतलब प्रॉब्लम बाप के अंदर है, लड़की के अंदर नहीं है. वो कह रहा है जो बात से नहीं समझता उसको लात से समझाओ. बेटा याद रखो, लात की जरूरत तभी है जब हमारी बात जो है इतनी असरदार नहीं है. याद रखिए सर ये बात. इफ चिल्ड्रन टर्न आउट टू बी इनडिसिप्लिन, अ पार्ट ऑफ द ब्लेम फॉर दैट हैज टू बी टेकन अप बाय पेरेंट्स. You can't say that it is only the child's problem. After all, it is your genes and it's your guidance. So if he turned out to be indisciplined, problem is yours. महात्मा गांधी जी ने क्या किया भगवान जानता है. उनके पास टाइम ही कहां था. तभी तो फ्रस्ट्रेशन था फैमिली में. वाइफ भी फ्रस्ट्रेटेड थी, बच्चे तो थे ही. देखिए बड़ा आदमी बनने के लिए परिवार की आहुति तो देनी पड़ती है साहब. वेरी डिफिकल्ट. अथॉरिटेरियन फर्स्ट. नाउ हु आर अथॉरिटेरियन पेरेंट्स? authoritarian parents, they believe in restricting the autonomy of their children. They believe in restricting the autonomy of their children. They impose their value system on their children. Their value system. मेरी बात मान. Your value system on children. So their value system on their children. Therefore, children of authoritarian parents are generally, number one, either over compliant or extremely hostile. Either over compliant और एक्सट्रीमली हॉस्टाइल. आतंकी टाइप के होते हैं, नहीं करता. ये देखिए आप, हॉस्टाइल और ओवर कंप्लाइंट, वेरी टिमिड वेराइटी. लेस कोऑपरेटिव, more self-centric.
Less balanced.
Yes. Less compassionate. Less compassionate. Less empathetic. Less empathetic as well. And ये तो इम्बैलेंस तो इसी के साथ ही आ जाएगा. मतलब बैलेंस इज ए जनरल वर्ड ना, इसलिए आई डिडंट यूज, बिकॉज आई वांटेड टू जस्ट हाईलाइट द वैल्यूज. एंड दे आर लाइकली टू बी बायस्ड. और पार्शियल means they will always take sides, biased in favor of some, biased against some. This is authoritarian parenting. Most Indians generally receive authoritarian parenting. What could be the reason for that? Feudal mindset, agreed, but sir, huge power distance, presence of power distance means there is a difference in the power or the hierarchy. There is a presence of clear hierarchy, presence of huge power distance between parents and children.
Even among parents.
Among parents also, definitely.
Sir, but authoritarian is good, sir, because children don't know, they are like juvenile, what we say, like they are not able to.
अजी सर कितनी नादानी वाली बात कर रहे हो. अभी आने तो दूसरे तक. अभी से ही जजमेंट कर लिया आपने. वो जुवेनाइल है, मैं थप्पड़ मारूंगा, इससे तो पता चलता है कितने आतंकी बाप बनोगे आप. बेटा थोड़ा सा प्यार मोहब्बत सीखो, बच्चे को नजाकत से हैंडल करो. गलत, यही तो गलत है आपकी बात. बेटा वो जमाना चला गया, स्पेयर द रॉड एंड स्पॉइल द चाइल्ड. Even with the rod, children put parents to the sword. Okay.
Might succumb then, but later on,
अरे रिवेंज ओरिएंटेशन, इंतकाम की आग सुलगती रहेगी और जब मौका मिला तो जला दूंगा इसको, मिटा दूंगा इसको, मेरे अंदर इंतकाम की आग सुलग रही है। पिक्चर बड़ी अच्छी बनेगी, इंतकाम की आग। ये तो यार कैसी बात करते हो, जहां मोहब्बत ही नहीं है वहां जीवन कहां है? अरे सर, ये तो पता है कौन लोग होंगे, ये हस्बैंड वाइफ रिलेशनशिप ही इक्वलिटेरियन नहीं है इन द फैमिली। लेट मी बी वेरी क्लियर, अथॉरिटेरियन पेरेंटिंग विल जनरली इन्वॉल्व दिस। यस, चाइल्ड, मदर, शेर सिंह, शेर सिंह। अब मदर इज द गो बिटवीन द चाइल्ड एंड द शेर सिंह। सो अब लड़के ने को दीवानगी छा गई, उसने कन्या देख ली एक, अब मदर से कन्फेस किया, मॉम my biological drives have become very dominant. I sought an association. Now please tell Sher Singh that your son is in love. She says, I will see the mood of Sher Singh and then deliver the information. एक दिन बताने की कोशिश की उन्होंने, अजी सुनो, हाँ क्या बात है? मदर तो भग गई, लड़का भाग गया, मम्मी वापस वापस वापस। पागल हो रहा है शेर सिंह आज। ये तो एटीट्यूड है सर। आज भी कई परिवारों में, ऑल्दो नॉट इन कॉस्मोपॉलिटन एरियाज वेयर विमेन्स द अथॉरिटी ऑफ विमेन हैज इंक्रीज्ड, in cosmopolitan areas you don't see this now. So with educated women it is not possible. Less educated still, although there is some imbalance still present in the society which needs correction, but I would say that in villages this kind of behavior is commonly seen.
So it is the bigger problem, inconsistency.
Is it a?
Inconsistency. Isn't that the bigger problem?
We will discuss it later. Right now, I am trying to speak about those parents who at least adopt one particular style and stay with it. Are you getting my point? So we are not discussing about parents without style, freestyle parents. There is not freestyle parents yet. So we are discussing those with a style, not freestyle. Inconsistency, in fact, is the very big problem, not just a slightly more challenging, much more challenging. Sir, remember, in a society wherever there are status differences very pronounced, the style will be authoritarian, whether it is of parenting or leadership. Take the case of Mr. Modi. Take the case of Congress. Is there intra-party democracy? Answer is no. You know why? Because not only just in parenting, but also if you see at the national level, in the various prominent parties of the political parties of the country, you will find that authoritarian style is present. There is no second rung of leadership, sir. Second, democratic parenting. They deal with their children in rational, issue-oriented manner. Rational, issue-oriented manner. Rational, issue-oriented manner. Unlike authoritarian parents, who relied upon physical punishment to discipline their children, unlike authoritarian parents who relied upon physical punishment to discipline their children, democratic parents use withdrawal or the threat of withdrawal of love. The threat of withdrawal of love as principal mechanism to influence or to discipline their children.
Emotional blackmail.
No, not emotional blackmail. In fact, I tell you one thing. Emotional blackmail is again a power game. You have to think like this, that the relationship is based on equanimity. The relationship is based on a very genuine expression of love, where the child feels that that love will not be available to him from any quarter. See, the problem, you know, why most people are not democratic, even when they are very educated or literate for that matter. The reason being, democratic parenting requires two outstanding qualities. One is patience and second is tolerance. On these front, people are very low, are very, very poor. Neither they have patience nor they have tolerance. I mean, one litmus test of patience and tolerance can be both on the account of teacher and as well as student. I will give you an example. Sir, you have some idea in mind. Now, you don't have the patience to to allow the teacher to express his idea before you step in. We want to immediately step in, not allow him to what is called as present his idea. Likewise, teacher tries to cut student short, not allow student to express his idea before he steps in. That is why I say, all excellent communicators are good listeners. If you cannot listen well, you cannot communicate well. In fact, we can go to an extent saying that listening itself is a language. I mean, silence also is a language of its type. Probably many things I can communicate better through my silence rather than through a great speech. There are things which can be communicated better through silence rather than through a great speech. This is what our understanding is, sir. So patience and tolerance, withdrawal of love, threat of withdrawal of love. देखो जी withdrawal की भी जरूरत नहीं पड़ी. Threat of withdrawal of love. I mean, this is not to say that democratic parents will never physically punish their children, but their principal mechanism is not physical. Whereas authoritarian parents' principal mechanism is physical. Where is the problem, sir, there? One simple thing. Level of egoism present when dealing with the children. How come he can question me? Who is he? He is my product. Therefore has to be subservient. How can he question me? ये अहंकार पेरेंट्स रखते हैं. अच्छा, एक बात और है, कितना ही पेशेंट पेरेंट हो, no matter whatever level of patience, sometimes children say few things that make them lose their cool. Father was telling the son about his economic prowess, and son remarked, मेरे लिए तो तुम 2 पैसे के बाप नहीं हो. वो कहता है मैं 2000 करोड़ का आदमी, तू 2 पैसे का नहीं है. अब आपको गुस्सा आ गया कि साहब सारी दुनिया सलाम करती है अपने आगे, ये बदतमीज कहता है तू 2 पैसे का नहीं है। आपने कहा 2 पैसे का कैसे नहीं हूं, परसों ले गया समोसे खाने के लिए 200 रुपए। आप बाप ने ये बोला, लड़का कहता है यही तो खिलाया तुमने, समोसा ही तो खिलाया, जो चीज खिलानी थी वो तो खिलाई नहीं। बाप ने पूछा क्या? प्यार और मोहब्बत। जहां था पैसा फेंका, पैसा। समझ गया बात? दिस इज द वे द डायलॉग इज। ये कोई फिल्मी डायलॉग नहीं चल रहा, बात बता रहा हूं आपको मैं। यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड नाउ। आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट और नॉट? द आइडिया, बट द फादर, ग्रेट फादर, यू नो, ग्रेट फादर, like one present here, would be fathers, will immediately put his hand up and says, dear son, I am so glad that you have made me realize what I couldn't provide you. So I put my hand up and first of all ask you to, or request you to pardon me, and so that I can put myself on corrective mode. The time which has been lost, I cannot gather back, I cannot recollect it, but anyway, at least an effort can be made here on not to indulge in it. Now this is greatness. He will fall on the feet of the father, but that requires some courage. Addressal of inferiority and insecurity that we started with, constructive path. This is greatness. A truly democratic father will behave like this. Now each one of us has different shades. Suppose we are reading a magazine, which when child asks us, Papa, I also want to read. Father says no. This is not for you. Then eventually what happens? One day he finds out what content his father reads. Okay. He questions his father. You are very cheap. You read the stuff which has put me to shame. Now, father is deeply embarrassed. देखो ना हिम्मत की बात देखो आप. And it was in the front of 3 other people who were sitting along with him. अंकल देखो ऐसी मैगजीन पढ़ते हमारे पापा. ये देखो जी कैसी कैसी तस्वीरें इसके अंदर. और ये कहते हैं नारी उत्थान की बात करते ही खुद गिरे हुए पतन वाले आदमी है. Great father, you know what will say. First of all, I admit I have read the magazine, and I must admit that this was not correct on my part, but my biological drive took over me, and I read the magazine. He will admit it, sir. Never offensive, neither overly defensive, no explanation given, not in denial mode, acceptance of the mistake and corrective action.
Sir, how will be the answer? You can also read it when you grow.
हाँ नहीं ये कहने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप कहना जी ये मैगजीन देखने में कोई अर्जा नहीं है, लेकिन एक बात है, मैंने तुमसे ये बोला. देखो एक बात है, you see, I am more hurt when, not when you lied, but because when you lied I was hurt, not because you lied, but because you never considered me as worthy of truth, of hearing truth. Are you getting my point, sir? So the father can admit this, that the problem was not about the magazine. The problem was non-acceptance, that I was reading it and I was seeing it. This is what the idea is, sir. Sir, got the point or not? Only a very patient and secure father can do this. Most of them, 99.9, will go on denial mode. This is what is democratic parenting in true sense. This will create the virtue, sir, greatest virtue in the human being, openness. I am receptive to feedback. I am not against feedback. That is the value that will be generated. So that is why withdrawal of love. That is why children understand that how much they love them. Withdrawal of love. Physical punishment is used, but not on regular basis. Very rarely it is so that physical punishment is used as a mechanism to discipline the children. That is what our understanding is. So they deal with their children in rational, issue-oriented manner. That is how they deal with their children with. Further, one more line you can write, and this is very important. As and when they make use of physical punishment, they explain to their children that why they were given physical punishment. And they also provide positive reinforcement on the display of desired behavior. ये खास बात है, not just punishment. Positive reinforcement on the display of the desired behavior. Whenever some desired behavior is displayed, I provide them positive reinforcement as well. So both ways I go. Punishment given occasionally, physical, explained, plus positive reinforcement on the display of desired behavior. And let me tell you, when father is an epitome of calmness along with mother, so generally speaking, children will also be calm. But such families are rare, where both parents have immense social maturity, emotional maturity, because the democratic parenting will require this socio-emotional maturity and socio-emotional maturity of parents, which is generally missing in India. You know why? Men are pampered, therefore maturity is missing, and women are subjected to various kinds of atrocities and various kinds of discriminations. So therefore their maturity is also missing. So in the event of both things missing, there will be a problem. Actually, when I said in the beginning, if you remember, when I said that the parenting is the critical thing in deciding what kind of value development you will have. So let me tell you, what does democratic parenting result in? It results in the individual knowing when to move towards, when to move away, and when to move against. Whenever in life you face a challenge, there are three things that you need to know. When to move towards means compliant behavior. When to move away means what? Means withdrawal. And when to move against means defiance. If I know exactly that, when to comply, when to defy, and when not to involve myself. So in that situation we can say our parenting has been very successful. Generally speaking, in authoritarian parenting, there is either movement towards or movement against. Either we are overly compliant or we are overly defiant. The balance which she spoke about was missing. So therefore, democratic parenting will develop all those values which are listed in our syllabus. It will develop in children, number one, value of objectivity, value of impartiality, value of cooperativeness, value of tolerance, patience, empathy, compassion. These are all values that will develop as a result of डेमोक्रेटिक पेरेंटिंग। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वैल्यू है सर, लेट मी टेल यू। अथॉरिटेरियन पेरेंटिंग विल प्रमोट इरेशनल बिहेवियर, डिनायल ऑफ रियलिटी, हियर इज एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ रियलिटी। क्लियर आएगा जी? डिस्कस द रोल ऑफ पेरेंट्स इन वैल्यू डेवलपमेंट ऑफ चिल्ड्रन। एक क्वेश्चन तो बिल्कुल सीधा सीधा है, उसमें तो कोई ट्विस्ट ही नहीं है, और अगर ज्यादा ट्विस्ट हो गया तो यह आ जाएगा क्वेश्चन, डिस्कस हाउ चेंजिंग ट्रेंड्स इन द फैमिली in contemporary India have resulted in value confusion in children। अगर थोड़ा सा और एडवांस्ड आ गया आदमी तो समझ गए ना बात आप? इस तरह से क्वेश्चन आएगा। या दूसरा क्वेश्चन भी आ सकता है, वो ये हो सकता है सर, कंबाइंड क्वेश्चन, डिस्कस द रोल ऑफ स्कूल एंड फैमिली इन मॉरल एजुकेशन और इन डेवलपमेंट ऑफ मॉरल वैल्यूज। समझाइए बात आप? ये है।
Best method is to try to be democratic as much as possible.
Yes.
Not then be authoritarian.
Best method is this, if it is possible, to become democratic. Now the third is permissive variety. This is third variety. Family, school and religion and workplace. Straight questions can come. Discuss the role straight away. And they have specifically mentioned the role of family and education. Point clear sir? Straight question. I don't think that they will ask that much that what are the changing trends. Probably might not. But family role, direct importance question will be there. Now we go to what we describe as the third type, permissive. Permissive parenting. Permissive parents provide their children as much freedom as is consistent with the child's physical survival. As much freedom as is consistent with child's physical survival. मतलब समझे सर? As long as you are single piece, I have no objection. You can do anything you want, but make sure that you do not break into multiple pieces. Some people put do not disturb board in front of their room or not. There are such kind of parents. Do not disturb. If you call them and tell, Dad, my preparation is progressing like this. He says, don't bother me again. Please tell me how much money you want. Now call me after next 6 months. That variety. So, what will be parenting like? Parenting will be characterized by neglect, apathy and non-involvement. Because too much of freedom is a problematic thing, sir. There is an element of apathy, there is an element of neglect, and there is non-involvement. Now it is not necessarily there may be as such apathy, but apathy in the sense that if the child is harboring for father's love and is not getting, it's a kind of apathy only. Feature of this parenting is parents indifferent behavior towards children. Indifferent behavior towards children.
Is it possible for three of them to operate simultaneously?
Democratic will have all shades of all of them. No need to say three of them operate simultaneously. Father must have been a truly what is called as a deviant person for having three styles in him. Child will become mad. Children of such parents, sir, will commit suicide because they do not know what next. So much of guesswork in the life of the child. पता ही नहीं आइटम किस तरफ घूमेगा. Sir, सोचो आप, a mad man driving the car and I am the passenger. Agreed? And no safety belt. So this is there. That is parents' behavior is indifferent towards their children. Parents' indifferent behavior towards their children. And as a result of that, children will develop what kind of values? Values of avoidance. Values of non-involvement. Indifference. Absence of interest in things. These are the values that they will develop. Although sometimes they may turn out to be very creative people also. Because creativity is contingent on freedom. And when you get unlimited freedom, you can be creative. But the real problem, you know, in this is what? There is this tendency, the tendency to identify with negative role models and develop negative values. See, in the environment, sir, this is where we will finish. In the environment, positive role models are not available in abundance. Negative role models are there. So if parents' vigilance over children is least, as it is seen here, complete indifference, so what will happen? There is ample chance that these people have plenty of money, generally speaking. Okay, so the negative role models are likely to affiliate with them, lure them with various things. Because child as such is searching for love. Love is not available from the side of the parents. So he will be compelled to seek love from them, and they are negative role models. So they will end up producing in children what? Negative value system. So this is where we end, sir. Other things about parenting, school and other agencies of socialization we'll take up tomorrow.